Let's take a moment to reflect on the profound journey of humility and exaltation, a theme that resonates deeply in the words of Isaiah. Picture this: a people full of themselves, caught in the web of their own pride, blinded by the glitter of silver and gold, entranced by the power of military might, and entrapped by the allure of idols. Isn't it striking how relevant this feels today? We live in a world where self-sufficiency is celebrated, where the clamor for independence often drowns out the still, small voice of reliance on something greater than ourselves. Isaiah paints a vivid picture of the Israelites, a people who had strayed from their roots, who had placed their trust in the very things that would ultimately betray them. They were full of superstitions, clinging to rituals and practices that had lost their meaning. They amassed wealth, believing that their riches could shield them from calamity. They invested in military might, convinced that their chariots and horses would ensure their security. But the root of it all? Pride. A stubborn belief that they could navigate life on their own, without divine guidance, without acknowledging the sovereignty of God. Isn't that a mirror reflecting our own lives? We often rely on our accomplishments, our intellect, our resources, thinking we can craft our destinies without divine intervention. We build our towers of Babel, reaching for the skies while forgetting the foundation beneath us. But here's the truth. The day is coming when all that pride will be brought low. Isaiah warns us of a day when the lofty will be humbled, when the proud will be forced to reckon with their hubris. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? To think that all our achievements, our accolades, our possessions will mean nothing in the face of the Almighty. Imagine the scene: the proud and the powerful, once untouchable and revered, now reduced to nothing. The greatest empires, the mightiest armies, the wealthiest individuals, all will be humbled before the Lord. Isaiah speaks of a day when the very foundations of our earthly confidence will shake, and we will be faced with the undeniable truth that God alone is exalted. The symbols of our strength, our wealth, our power, our status will crumble, and we will be left with the stark reality of our dependence on Him. And what of those who choose to hide? Isaiah paints a haunting image of people wishing for the very rocks to fall upon them rather than face the splendor of God. Can you feel the weight of that? The dread of standing before the Creator, stripped of all pretense, all masks, all false securities. There's a fear that grips the heart when we realize that nothing can shield us from the truth of who we are in the sight of God. The idols we cling to, the false hopes we nurture, they will all be laid bare, and we will be left with the raw, unfiltered reality of our existence. This isn't just an ancient prophecy. It's a call to action for us today. Isaiah implores us to stop trusting in man, to cease our reliance on the fleeting things of this world. How often do we find ourselves leaning on our own understanding, our own plans, our own strength? It's a temptation that's all too easy to fall into, isn't it? We strategize, we manipulate circumstances, we hustle endlessly, believing that we can control the outcomes. But what if we shifted our focus? What if we chose to trust in God instead? Think about the ways you trust in yourself. Maybe it's in your career, your relationships, or your finances. Do you find comfort in your abilities, your resources? Are you holding on to the illusion that you can manage everything on your own? It's a heavy burden to carry, one that can lead to exhaustion and disillusionment. But here's the beautiful truth. When we release that burden, when we lay down our pride and turn our hearts towards God, we open ourselves to a different kind of strength, a strength that doesn't come from ourselves but from Him. What would it mean for you to trust more in God, to lean into His promises, to seek His guidance, to surrender your plans to His will? It's a radical shift, one that requires humility and faith. But it's also liberating. When we acknowledge our limitations and embrace our dependence on Him, we find a peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that transcends circumstances. we begin to see the world through a different lens, one where God's sovereignty reigns supreme, where His plans are infinitely greater than our own. As we reflect on these truths, let's take a moment to declare the glory and triumph of Yeshua. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to respond. Type, "Praise Yeshua," in the comments below, and let's celebrate together the one who is exalted above all. Let's remind ourselves that in our humility, we find His grace, and in our surrender, we discover true strength. If you found this message inspiring, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Join this community as we journey together, seeking to trust more deeply in God, to exalt Yeshua in our lives, and to live out the truth that in humility we find our greatest strength. The world may be full of pride, but we have the opportunity to stand apart, to embrace a life that honors the one who is exalted forever.